You have been told a story. It is, perhaps, the most famous and most misunderstood story in the modern history of wealth creation. The story is simple, digestible, and profoundly inspiring. It goes like this. Warren Buffett, the oracle, the icon, the man who built a $90 billion fortune from the ashes of a failed textile mill, reads 500 pages every single day. We see him in our mind's eye, a humble grandfatherly figure, sitting in a worn armchair in Omaha, Nebraska, a stack of annual reports on one side, and a biography on the other, diligently absorbing the world's information, one page at a time. The lesson seems obvious, a clear and direct instruction from the master himself. If you want to be wise, if you want to be successful, if you want to be rich, you must read. Voraciously, constantly. You must outread, outlearn, and outhustle everyone around you. And so, the aspiring elite, the ambitious, the hungry, take this story to heart. They download articles, they subscribe to newsletters, they buy the bestsellers, they listen to audiobooks on double speed, cramming their minds with an endless fire hose of data. They feel productive, they feel informed, they feel like they are following the blueprint. But they are not. They are, in fact, enacting a lie. The 500-page story is not a blueprint. It is a trap. It is the most dangerous and seductive misunderstanding of how Warren Buffett's mind actually works. The lie is not that he reads 500 pages. He does. The lie is the implied conclusion that the act of reading, the sheer volume of information consumption, is the cause of his success. It is not. That is like saying a master chef's secret is that he buys a lot of groceries. It mistakes the raw material for the engine of creation. Buffett's $90 billion fortune was not built by information. It was built by a machine that destroys information. A machine that incinerates 99.9% of all the data it encounters, the noise, the opinions, the forecasts, the ephemeral chatter, and alchemizes the remaining 0.1% into something else entirely. Something permanent, something powerful, something that compounds. He does not read for information. He reads to install and upgrade mental models. He reads to build a machine in his head, a cognitive engine. This engine, built and refined over 75 years of relentless, systematic effort, is his single greatest competitive advantage. It is the invisible architecture behind every decision, the source code for his almost supernatural rationality. It allows him to see a reality that is simply unavailable to others, to identify patterns and opportunities with a clarity that appears to the outside world as prophecy, but is, in fact, the logical output of a superior operating system. This is not a documentary about reading habits. This is a deconstruction of that engine. We are going to strip it down to its core components. We will reveal the three master protocols that govern its function. The filtration protocol that determines what tiny sliver of reality is allowed to enter his mind, the integration protocol that forges that input into the permanent latticework of his knowledge, and the discard protocol that ruthlessly purges everything else. You are about to learn that the path to elite-level decision-making and wealth creation is not about accumulating more information, but about building a better machine to process it. Prepare to uninstall the 500-page lie. Prepare to install the cognitive compounding engine. The journey begins with a fundamental rewiring of your perception. You must undergo a great divorce in your mind, a permanent and irreconcilable separation between two concepts that the modern world has pathologically fused together: information and knowledge. To the average person, to the aspiring professional caught in the daily whirlwind of emails, news alerts, and social media feeds, these two things are synonymous. To know more is to be exposed to more data. But to Buffett's mind, they are not just different, they are often mortal enemies. Information is ephemeral. It is the stock price tick, the quarterly earnings report, the breaking news headline, the analyst's upgrade or downgrade, the latest tech trend, the political gossip from Washington. It is a vast, roaring ocean of data that has a shelf life measured in days, hours, or even minutes. It is loud, it is urgent, and it is almost entirely worthless for making long-term, high-stakes decisions. 99.9% of what is published in the financial press on any given day is information. Its primary purpose is not to make you wise, but to make you anxious, to make you feel that you must do something now. It is a tool for triggering your most primitive, reactive, and self-destructive instincts. It is a siren song for the amygdala. Knowledge, on the other hand, is permanent. It is durable. It is a mental model of how the world works. The law of supply and demand is knowledge. The concept of a feedback loop is knowledge. The psychological principle of social proof is knowledge. The historical pattern of credit cycles is knowledge. These are not facts that expire. They are cognitive tools, lenses through which you can view the endless stream of information and see its underlying structure. Information tells you what happened. Knowledge tells you times why, nana times briage nu times dimas. Information is the pixel. Knowledge is the algorithm that understands the image. The modern world, and the financial industry in particular, is a machine designed to drown you in information while starving you of knowledge. It is a conspiracy against clarity. The CEO on television is giving you information. The stock chart with its bewildering array of indicators is information. The hot tip from a friend is information. They are all designed to provoke a short-term reaction based on an incomplete picture. Warren Buffett's 500 pages a day habit is not an attempt to win this game. It is a declaration of war against it. He is not trying to drink from the fire hose of information. He is building an ark of knowledge to float above the flood. When he opens a company's annual report, he is not looking for the latest quarterly numbers. That is information. He is looking for the fundamental long-term economics of the business. He is searching for the signature of an economic moat, a durable competitive advantage. That is a mental model. That is knowledge. When he reads a biography of a great business leader, he is not memorizing the dates and names. That is information. He is reverse engineering their decision-making processes under pressure. He is extracting the psychological patterns of success and failure. That is knowledge. When he reads a book of history, he is not concerned with the specific events as trivia. He is identifying the grand repeating cycles of human behavior, greed, and fear that have rhymed for centuries. That is knowledge. The great divorce is the first and most crucial step. You must, in your own mind, build a wall between these two domains. You must begin to see the daily deluge of financial news, not as a valuable resource, but as a toxic pollutant, a cognitive contaminant designed to degrade your decision-making. You must train yourself to have an allergic reaction to forecasts, predictions, and short-term market commentary. This is not easy. Your brain is wired to crave novelty, to seek the latest update. The entire digital economy is built on exploiting this addiction. Buffett's first act of genius was to engineer an environment and a mindset that systematically starves this addiction. His office in Omaha has no stock ticker, no Bloomberg terminal. He does not have a computer on his desk. He has insulated himself, creating a cognitive clean room where only the highest quality, most durable inputs are allowed. He understands a profound truth that eludes almost everyone else. Your attention is your most precious and finite resource. Every moment you spend consuming ephemeral information is a moment you cannot spend integrating permanent knowledge. It is a zero-sum game. You are either building the ark, or you are drowning in the flood. This mental shift is the prerequisite for everything that follows. Before you can even begin to build the engine, you must first clear the land. You must recognize that the vast majority of what is marketed as staying informed is actually a form of self-sabotage. It is the act of voluntarily ingesting mental poison. The first question Buffett's cognitive engine asks of any potential input is not, "Is this interesting?" or "Is this new?" The question is this durable? Will this piece of understanding be as true and as useful in 10 years as it is today? If the answer is no, it is discarded without a second thought. It is noise. It is a toxin. This filtration process alone eliminates more than 99% of the world's daily data output. This is why he can afford to read 500 pages of what remains. He is not reading more than you are. He is reading Little's cookwood, but of a profoundly different substance. He is on a diet of pure, uncut, timeless knowledge. He is building his latticework. The goal of the cognitive compounding engine is not to collect disconnected facts. It is to build a coherent, multidisciplinary mental structure that Charlie Munger, Buffett's longtime business partner, famously calls a, quote, latticework of mental models. This concept is the architectural blueprint for Buffett's mind. It is the single most important idea you must grasp to understand the source of his power. Imagine your mind as a toolbox. The average person, even a highly educated specialist, has one or two magnificent tools. An engineer has a hammer of systems thinking. A psychologist has a screwdriver of cognitive biases. A biologist has a wrench of evolutionary theory. When they encounter a problem, they reach for the tool they know best. As the saying goes, to a man with only a hammer, everything looks like a nail. They see the world through a single, powerful, but ultimately limiting lens. This is the prison of specialization. A latticework, by contrast, is not one or two tools. It is 100 tools, from a dozen different tool sheds. It is having the hammer of systems thinking, the screwdriver of cognitive biases, the wrench of evolutionary theory, and also the pliers of physics, the saw of history, the measuring tape of mathematics, and the blowtorch of philosophy. But it is more than just having the tools. A latticework implies a structure where these tools are interconnected. The models from different disciplines talk to each other. They weave together to form a cohesive fabric of understanding. A problem is no longer a nail to be hammered. It is a multifaceted object that can be examined from all angles simultaneously. You can analyze a business's competitive strategy using the model of an ecosystem from biology. You can understand a stock market bubble using the model of a positive feedback loop from engineering, and the model of social proof from psychology, working in tandem. You can assess a CEO's capital allocation decisions using the model of opportunity cost from economics and the model of ego-driven folly from classical history. This is the power that Buffett has relentlessly built for himself over 75 years. He did not study business in a vacuum. He studied the entire world, recognizing that business is merely a subset of human behavior, and human behavior is a subset of complex adaptive systems. To understand the part, you must first understand the whole. Let's make this concrete. Let's build a small corner of this latticework right now, using models that are central to Buffett's thinking. First, take a model from physics, critical mass. In nuclear physics, critical mass is the minimum amount of fissile material needed to maintain a nuclear chain reaction. Below this threshold, the reaction fizzles out. Above it, it becomes self-sustaining and releases tremendous energy. Now let's connect this to a model from economics, network effects. A network effect occurs when a product or service becomes more valuable as more people use it. The telephone was not very valuable when only 2 people had one. It became immensely valuable when millions of people had one. This is a business version of critical mass. A company like Facebook or Visa is in a race to achieve critical mass in its user base. Before that point, it is vulnerable. After that point, the network becomes a self-sustaining chain reaction. New users join because all their friends are there, which in turn makes the network more valuable, which in turn attracts even more users. The system locks in. Now let's hang another model on this structure, this time from psychology, social proof. This is the deep-seated human tendency to assume that the actions of others are the correct behavior in a given situation. We see a long line outside a restaurant, and we assume the food must be good. We see a stock price soaring, and we assume it must be a good investment. When a company is approaching critical mass, the psychological force of social proof kicks in, dramatically accelerating its growth. People join the network not just for its utility, but because everyone else is doing it. This creates a powerful, non-linear explosion in value. Finally, let's connect this to a model from biology, the ecosystem. In nature, a dominant species can shape its entire environment to its own advantage, making it difficult for competitors to survive. This is called niche construction. A powerful network effect business does the same thing. It becomes the ecosystem. Think of Microsoft Windows in the 1990s or the Apple App Store today. They are not just products, they are environments in which thousands of other businesses must live. This creates an incredibly powerful competitive advantage, an economic moat. By weaving together just these four models from four different disciplines, physics, economics, psychology, and biology, you have constructed a powerful tool for understanding a specific type of great business. When Buffett looked at a company like American Express in the 1960s after the Salad Oil scandal, he wasn't just looking at the balance sheet. He was seeing the chain reaction of the network effect between cardholders and merchants. He was seeing the psychological power of social proof embedded in the brand, the desire of people to be seen as a member of the club. He was seeing an ecosystem that was incredibly difficult for a new competitor to replicate. He saw the whole picture, not just the financial snapshot. While Wall Street was panicking over the information of the scandal, Buffett was calmly analyzing the permanent knowledge of the business's structure. This is the lattice work in action. His 500 pages a day are a hunt for new models to add to this structure and new ways to connect the models he already possesses. He reads about physics to better understand feedback loops. He reads about biology to better understand competition. He reads about psychology to better understand the irrationality of crowds. He is not a businessman who reads history. He is a historian, a psychologist, and a physicist who happens to apply his integrated knowledge to the domain of business. The result is a perspective of such clarity and depth that it appears almost magical. But it is not magic, it is engineering. It is the deliberate, patient construction of a superior cognitive machine. And the fuel for this machine, the element that makes it not just powerful but unstoppable, is the principle of cognitive compounding. This is the absolute core of the engine. The secret that explains the vast and ever-widening gap between Buffett and his peers. Everyone understands financial compounding. If you invest $1 and earn 10%, you have $1.10. The next year you earn 10% on the new, larger amount. Over time, the growth becomes exponential. It is, as Einstein reportedly called it, the eighth wonder of the world. What almost no one understands or acts upon is that knowledge works in exactly the same way, but the rate of compounding is far higher, and the asset is far more durable. When you learn a new mental model, you don't just add it to your collection like a stamp. It interacts with every other model you already possess. It doesn't add, it multiplies. When you first learn the model of supply and demand, your understanding of the world increases by a certain amount. When you then learn the model of social proof, you don't just have two separate tools. You can now analyze how social proof can artificially inflate demand, creating bubbles and manias. The two models together are more than twice as powerful as they were alone. When you then add the model of critical mass, you can understand how network effects can create a winner-take-all dynamic where supply and demand almost cease to matter. Each new model increases the power of all the others. This is cognitive compounding. Now imagine this process continuing not for a year or a decade, but for 75 years. Imagine starting at age 10, as Buffett did, and relentlessly adding and connecting new models, day after day, week after week, decade after decade. The knowledge base does not grow in a straight line. It explodes in an exponential curve that, after a few decades, becomes nearly vertical. This is the source of Buffett's unassailable advantage. It is not that he is 1,000 times smarter than his competitors. It is that his compounded knowledge base is 1,000,000 times more powerful. An insight he gained from reading a book about the railroad industry in the 1950s suddenly clicks into place when analyzing a pipeline business in the 2000s. A lesson about human psychology he learned from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People as a teenager informs his negotiation to buy a multi-billion-dollar company 60 years later. The knowledge never decays. It only connects, it only grows. A financial fortune can be lost. A market crash, a bad decision, a shift in technology can wipe out billions of dollars overnight. But the lattice work of knowledge in Buffett's head is indestructible. It is an asset that cannot be taxed, cannot be stolen, and cannot be inflated away. In fact, market crashes, the very events that destroy financial capital, are the moments when his intellectual capital yields its greatest returns. Because in times of panic and chaos, when the world is drowning in the terrifying information of the moment, he is the only one who can calmly consult his internal, time-tested map of reality. He can diagnose the situation with clarity, recognize the patterns from his study of history, and act with a rationality that is unavailable to those whose minds are not fortified by this compounded wisdom. He is not predicting the future, he is simply recognizing the present with a higher degree of accuracy than anyone else. His patience, his famous ability to sit on his hands for years at a time, is not a matter of willpower. It is the natural output of the engine. He does not need to chase opportunities, because he knows that his ever-growing knowledge base will inevitably surface high-probability, low-risk decisions. He is a cognitive predator, patiently waiting for the game to come to him, confident that when it does, he will see it more clearly and understand it more deeply than any of his rivals. This is why the hustle culture of information consumption is so tragically misguided. The person who speed reads 5 business books a week and listens to a dozen podcasts a day is not compounding knowledge. They are engaged in a frantic process of information displacement. New, shallow data pushes out yesterday's shallow data. Nothing sticks, nothing connects, nothing compounds. They are running faster and faster on a treadmill, going nowhere. Buffett is building a skyscraper. Each day, he adds a few more bricks, meticulously placing them on the foundation he laid the day before. The person on the treadmill sees the slow pace of the builder and laughs. But after 50 years, the man on the treadmill is exhausted and in the exact same spot. And Buffett has built an empire. Understanding this philosophy, the great divorce from information, the architecture of the lattice work, and the explosive power of cognitive compounding, is the first half of the battle. It is the why. Now we must turn to the how. We must deconstruct the specific, practical, and often counterintuitive mechanics of the engine itself. We must examine the protocols that govern its daily operation. We begin with the engine's gatekeeper, the filtration protocol. This is the set of rules that determines what gets read in the first place. The power of the cognitive compounding engine is as much about what it rejects as what it accepts. Buffett's genius is not just in finding the needles of wisdom. It's in his system for ignoring the universe-sized haystack of noise. This protocol is ruthless, disciplined, and profoundly different from how most people approach learning. It is built on 3 pillars: primary sources, timeless principles, and a deep skepticism of authority. Pillar 1. The obsession with primary sources. In the world of investing, the ultimate primary source is the annual report, specifically the 10K filing that public companies are required to submit to the Securities and Exchange Commission. To the average investor, these documents are dense, boring, and impenetrable. To Buffett, they are holy scripture. They are a direct, unfiltered communication from the company to the world, written in the language of numbers, the only language that cannot lie. While Wall Street is busy reading analyst reports, which are essentially opinions about opinions, Buffett is going to the source. He is reading the raw data, forming his own conclusions. An analyst report is information. A 10K is a treasure map to knowledge if you know how to read it. And Buffett's method of reading it is a masterclass in itself. He does not start with the glossy letter from the CEO or the marketing materials. He often starts at the back, with the footnotes. The footnotes are where the company is forced to disclose the inconvenient details, the accounting assumptions, the potential liabilities. It is where the bodies are buried. He reads the Management Discussion and Analysis, MD&A, section with the mind of a detective, looking for inconsistencies, for what is not said as much as what is said. Is the language clear and straightforward, or is it filled with jargon and obfuscation? Does the management talk candidly about its mistakes, or does it only trumpet its successes? He is not just analyzing the business. He is psychoanalyzing the management. He reads 10 years of these reports, not just one, to see the patterns over time. How have the capital allocation decisions changed? Did the promises made 5 years ago come true? This process is slow, it is arduous, and it is the absolute opposite of the hot-tip-driven, instant gratification world of modern finance. It is an act of deep, focused intellectual craftsmanship. He is building his understanding of the business from the ground up, brick by brick, based on facts, not stories. Beyond the 10K, his preference for primary sources extends to his choice of news. He famously reads multiple newspapers a day, like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. But he is not reading them for stock tips or market predictions. He is reading them for broad business and social trends, for raw data about the state of the world. He is gathering facts, not interpretations. He once said, "We don't read other people's opinions. We want to get the facts and then think." This simple statement is a radical indictment of the entire financial media industry. He is systematically opting out of the ecosystem of commentary and choosing to engage directly with reality. The second pillar of the filtration protocol is the relentless focus on timeless principles. This is why his library is dominated by biographies and history books, not the latest business bestsellers. A book about a hot new management trend might be useless in 5 years. A deep study of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, or a biography of a titan like Andrew Carnegie, contains lessons about human nature, power, and systems that will be relevant forever. Biographies are, for Buffett, a form of reverse engineering. He is not reading them for entertainment. He is putting himself in the shoes of the protagonist, facing their dilemmas, analyzing their decisions, and judging the outcomes. He is running a simulation in his mind. What would I have done in that situation? Why did this person succeed where others failed? He is particularly interested in the biographies of great operators, people who built things, who allocated capital, who dealt with crises. He wants to understand the psychology of leadership and the mechanics of empire building. History for him is the grand laboratory of human behavior. He reads about financial panics of the past, not to predict the next one, but to understand the timeless, unchanging dynamics of fear and greed. He knows that while the technologies and the names may change, the underlying human emotions that drive markets are a constant. By studying the panic of 1907 or the Great Depression, he is vaccinating his own mind against the emotional contagions of his own time. He is building a deep historical context that allows him to remain calm and rational when everyone else is losing their minds. He is looking for the patterns that rhyme. The third pillar of the filtration protocol is a deep and profound skepticism of authority and credentialism. Buffett has a famous disdain for complex financial models and academic theories that are disconnected from business reality. He knows that the world is too complex, too messy, and too human to be captured by elegant equations. This is why he rarely, if ever, talks to Wall Street analysts or economists. He considers them part of the noise machine, the purveyors of ephemeral information. His authorities are not the people with the most impressive degrees, but the people with the best track records, the people who have demonstrated a deep understanding of business reality over decades. His greatest authority is his own internal latticework of knowledge. He trusts his own thinking, his own analysis, built from primary sources and timeless principles, over the opinion of any external expert. This intellectual sovereignty is a non-negotiable part of his system. He has outsourced his thinking to no one. Together, these three pillars, primary sources, timeless principles, and skepticism of authority, form an incredibly powerful filter. They ensure that the 500 pages that enter his mind each day are of the highest possible quality. They are nutrient-dense, free of the empty calories of opinion and speculation. This is the first and most critical step in the process of cognitive compounding. You cannot build a powerful engine by feeding it garbage. The quality of the output is entirely dependent on the quality of the input. And Buffett has engineered his inputs to be the cognitive equivalent of an Olympic athlete's diet. But even the highest quality input is useless if it is not properly processed. This brings us to the second and most mysterious part of the machine, the integration protocol. This is the alchemy. This is where the raw material of reading is transmuted into the gold of permanent knowledge. If the filtration protocol is about what happens before he reads, the integration protocol is about what happens during and, most importantly, after times he reads. It is a process that is invisible to the outside world, yet it is where the entire battle for clarity is won or lost. The core of this protocol is a single, powerful idea. Reading is not the work. Thinking is the work. For most people, the act of finishing a page, a chapter, or a book is the goal. The box is checked. The information is consumed. For Buffett, the end of the page is the beginning of the real process. His legendary schedule is the key. He famously has very few meetings. His days are largely unstructured. They are vast, empty blocks of time. This is not laziness. It is a strategic necessity. He has engineered his life to provide the one resource required for the integration protocol to function: solitude. He needs hours of quiet, uninterrupted time to do the slow, deliberate work of thinking. We can break the integration protocol down into 3 phases: active absorption, latticework connection, and mental simulation. Phase 1, active absorption, is about how he reads. He is not a passive receptacle for words. He is an active, engaged, and deeply critical partner in a conversation with the author. He is underlining, he is making notes in the margins, he is arguing with the text, he is constantly asking questions. Does this make sense? Does it square with what I already know? What is the author's agenda? What are the unstated assumptions here? This is not speed reading. It is the opposite. It is deep reading. It is a slow, methodical excavation of meaning. He is not trying to get through the book. He is trying to let the book get through him. He is wrestling with the ideas, forcing them to justify their existence before they are allowed entry into his mind. Phase 2, latticework connection, is the most crucial step. It happens in the quiet hours after the book is closed. This is the work of the thinking chair. Having absorbed a new piece of information or a new potential model, his mind immediately begins the process of connecting it to the vast, existing latticework of knowledge he has built over the decades. He asks a series of powerful questions. How does this new idea relate to what I know about economics? How does it connect to that biography I read last year? Does this challenge or reinforce a model I already hold? Can I use this new model to better understand a past investment success or failure? This is a conscious, deliberate act of mental synthesis. He is weaving the new thread into the existing tapestry. This is what transforms information into knowledge. A disconnected fact is weak and easily forgotten. A fact that is woven into a rich network of 100 other facts and models becomes strong, resilient, and permanent. This process is not easy. It requires immense concentration and a quiet environment free from distractions. This is why Buffett's Spartan office and empty schedule are not quirks. They are mission-critical components of his cognitive machinery. He has built a fortress of solitude to protect the sanctity of this integration process. The modern world of open-plan offices, constant notifications, and back-to-back meetings is a deliberate architectural assault on this kind of deep thinking. It is an environment designed to prevent the formation of a latticework. It is an environment that guarantees shallow, disconnected thought. Phase 3 is mental simulation. Once a new model or piece of knowledge has been integrated into the latticework, Buffett begins to use it. He runs simulations in his head. He takes a current business problem or a potential investment and looks at it through the lens of his newly upgraded latticework. How does this change my view of Coca-Cola's competitive position? If I had known this 10 years ago, would I have made a different decision about buying that newspaper? He is test-driving his new knowledge, using it to reinterpret the past and model the future. This is a form of deliberate practice for the mind. Just as a pilot spends hours in a flight simulator to prepare for a real crisis, Buffett spends hours in his mental simulator, preparing for the high-stakes decisions of the real world. By the time he actually has to make a multi-billion-dollar commitment, he has already run the scenario through his mental models 1,000 times. The decision appears quick and intuitive to the outside world, but it is the result of years, even decades, of slow, patient, and invisible preparation. These three phases, active absorption, latticework connection, and mental simulation, form the heart of the integration protocol. They are the alchemical process that turns the lead of raw text into the gold of durable, useful wisdom. It is a system that is diametrically opposed to the modern ethos of speed and volume. It is slow, it is deliberate, it is solitary, and it is devastatingly effective. It is the reason why, at over 90 years old, his mind remains the most powerful instrument in the world of finance. It is a machine that has never stopped compounding. But there is one final component to the engine, a governor that prevents it from spinning out of control. It is the protocol that makes all the others work. It is the engine's kill switch, its most powerful and ego-destroying function, the discard protocol. The purpose of the cognitive compounding engine is not just to understand things, it is to define the precise boundaries of what you do not understand. This is the concept that underpins Buffett's most famous mental model, the circle of competence. A true circle of competence is not defined by its area but by the sharpness and clarity of its perimeter. The most important job of the engine is to tell Buffett when he is approaching that perimeter, when he is stepping into territory where his latticework of knowledge is weak or non-existent. The discard protocol is the mechanism for this. It is a simple but brutal rule. If a problem or an opportunity is too hard, throw it in the too hard pile and move on. Immediately. Without shame. Without ego. This sounds simple. It is, in fact, one of the most difficult psychological feats for any ambitious, intelligent person to perform. The world teaches us the opposite. We are trained to believe that the greatest rewards go to those who can solve the hardest problems. We are taught to prove our intelligence by wrestling with complexity. This is a trap. It is an ego-driven path to mediocrity and ruin. Buffett's entire philosophy is an inversion of this idea. He does not try to solve the hard problems, he looks for the easy problems. He is not trying to be a hero who jumps over 7-foot bars, he is looking for 1-foot bars that he can step over. The discard protocol is the system that enforces this discipline. As he reads and thinks, his latticework of mental models allows him to rapidly categorize any new subject or company. He can quickly determine if it fits within his deep domain of understanding. Things like insurance, consumer brands, railroads, or if it falls outside. If it involves complex technology he doesn't understand, or a business model dependent on factors he can't predict, it goes straight to the too hard pile. He does not waste a single minute of mental energy trying to get smart on a subject where he has no foundational knowledge. He knows that other people have been studying that area for decades, he cannot catch up. To try would be the height of arrogance. The discard protocol is therefore a weaponized form of intellectual humility. It is a system for annihilating the ego's desire to appear omniscient. It is the recognition that the most important part of wisdom is knowing the limits of your own knowledge. This is profoundly countercultural. The modern executive is expected to have an opinion on everything. The modern investor feels pressure to participate in every new trend, from dot-com stocks to cryptocurrencies. Buffett's system gives him the cognitive and emotional fortitude to simply say, "I don't know, and I don't care." He is not playing their game. He is playing his own game, a game that takes place entirely within the fortified walls of his circle of competence. The discard protocol is what keeps those walls strong. It prevents the engine from getting clogged with low-quality, speculative, or overly complex inputs. It ensures that his finite mental energy is dedicated exclusively to the high-probability opportunities that fall squarely within his deep pockets of expertise. It is the ultimate expression of focus. And so, the three protocols work in perfect harmony. The filtration protocol ensures that only the highest quality raw materials enter the factory. The integration protocol meticulously assembles those materials into a powerful, ever-growing machine. And the discard protocol acts as the quality control inspector, ruthlessly rejecting any task that the machine is not perfectly designed to handle. This is the complete system. This is the cognitive compounding engine. It is not a story about reading 500 pages a day. It is a story about a 75-year quest to build a better mind. A mind that is insulated from the noise and chaos of the world. A mind that is architected for clarity, for rationality, and for a deep, abiding patience. It is a machine that systematically transforms time, its owner's most precious asset, into wisdom, its most powerful weapon. The final output of this engine, the end result of this lifelong process, is not a brain full of facts. It is a state of being. It is the achievement of what we might call cognitive sovereignty. It is the ability to operate in the world with a mind that is truly your own, a mind that is not hijacked by the emotions of the crowd, the opinions of the media, or the pressures of the moment. It is the quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing that your decisions are based not on speculation or hope, but on a deep, integrated, and time-tested understanding of reality. This is the ultimate source of Buffett's wealth. It is not a stock-picking trick. It is a psychological state that he has deliberately and painstakingly engineered for himself over the course of a lifetime. The billions of dollars are a byproduct. They are the exhaust fumes of a perfectly running engine. The real product is the clarity. So what is the lesson for us? The 500-page story, The Lie, tells us that the lesson is to read more, to hustle harder, to consume more information. The truth of the cognitive compounding engine tells us something far more profound and, for many, far more difficult. It tells us that the first step is to stop, to disconnect from the fire hose, to build a wall against the deluge of low-quality information. It tells us to be ruthless in what we allow to enter our minds. It tells us that our goal is not to be informed but to be wise. It tells us to read not for answers but for models, to seek out the timeless principles of the world's great disciplines, and to ignore the fleeting chatter of the day. It tells us to schedule time not just for reading but for the slow, quiet, and essential work of thinking. To create our own fortress of solitude where we can do the hard work of connecting the dots, of weaving our own lattice work. It tells us to embrace the power of I don't know. To have the courage to define the boundaries of our own competence and to stay, with religious discipline, inside them. It tells us that the game of wealth creation is not a sprint, but a marathon of learning. It is a game of compounding, where the winners are not the fastest, but the most patient and the most deliberate. The machine in Warren Buffett's head is the most valuable piece of real estate on the planet, but it was not a gift of nature. It was built. And anything that is built can be understood. Its principles can be copied. Its architecture can be replicated. You can start today. You can make the great divorce. You can begin the slow, patient work of laying the foundation, of finding the first few strong mental models upon which you will build your own latticework. You can choose to feed your mind a diet of primary sources and timeless wisdom. You can carve out the time for quiet contemplation. You can have the discipline to say too hard. You can choose to build your own engine. But building this cognitive engine, this powerful machine for achieving unparalleled clarity, is only the first half of the equation. It is the prerequisite. It is the tool that allows you to see the world as it truly is, stripped of its noise and complexity. Once you have this ability, you are faced with a new challenge. How do you apply it? How do you use this hard-won clarity to operate in the real world of capital and risk? You need a second operating system, a framework for transaction and, more importantly, a framework for systematic neutral action. You need a filter that takes the clear reality provided by your cognitive engine and uses it to systematically reject the complexity the world tries to sell you, focusing your capital, your energy, and your life force only on the things that are now, to you, simple, inevitable, and obvious. This is what Warren Buffett calls his search for one-foot bars that he can step over. It is the ultimate application of the knowledge you have so patiently compounded. And to understand the deep psychological architecture of that system, to learn how to build your own ego annihilation engine and your own inevitability filter, you must watch the video appearing on your screen right now. It is a complete deconstruction of Buffett's Simplicity OS. Click here and continue your installation of a billionaire's mind.